Neil Price with the Mississippi State Sports Radio Network will call the game. Neil, good afternoon. How are you?
Good. How you guys doing?
Fantastic. I got to ask you what it's been like working with Mike Leach because he's certainly a unique personality. What's it been like in that relationship?
Well, so far, so good, and obviously we've not spent a ton of time together because of all the restrictions that we're operating under right now with relation to social distancing and how much we can be around and be around the team, in particular with the SEC rules that are in place. But the few times that we have been able to sit in the same room together, it's been very entertaining. He's very candid. I think that's refreshing in this day and age, and LSU people can appreciate that because I think Coach O is very candid in his own way, and I like that, So all you can ask for if you're a broadcaster working with a team is that you have a guy that respects the job you're trying to do, understands that that's all it is. You're not trying to get any state secrets out of them. You're just trying to do your job and give the best information you can to the fan base. And Coach Leach has been very understanding of that, and I appreciate it.
So you got a lot of new there in Starkville, new head coach. You've got new coordinators. You got Arnett coming over from San Diego State. And typically for your job, you want to gain all the information that you possibly can have, Neil, so you can have the best call. And you mentioned it. You didn't have necessarily the access. Like none of us have had the access that we're used to having. And so what have you tried to do to try to get ready for this contest?
Well, you read a lot, and that's not different than any other year. If you're trying to be prepared, and I'm still doing a lot of reading from both sides of this thing going in. I've watched a lot more Zoom than I ever thought I would ever do in my life, and know more about Zoom now than I probably need to know, to be honest with you. I've been around a little bit, and again, I've kept my distance, watching some things from afar at practice, maybe a day or two a week. I can sneak out and stay a long way away. When they've had scrimmages, I can kind of go up and sit and stay away in the booth and watch the games from where we would normally call them at home. And that's been great, just to be honest with you, to be back around a game situation again and see people getting ready to play a football game has been good for my spirits. But, I've had a chance to sit down with Zach Arnett and spend an hour with him, and that was incredibly helpful to kind of understand where he's coming from, what he wants to accomplish, and also understand what's important for him, knowing that he's still got a pretty young group on that defensive side of the ball to work with this year. So, you piece together what you can. They're always going to – it's just like the players and the coaches. There are going to be things that are going to come up on Saturday that you think you've prepared for, and they're going to come up and you don't have it in the notes somewhere, and we're just going to adjust and do the best we can while this thing's going on.
Our guest is Neil Price, the voice of Mississippi State, and he will be calling the game on Saturday. Neil, it occurs to me that LSU starting center this Saturday is a former student at Harvard, and Mississippi State's quarterback this Saturday is a former student at Stanford. So the academics are well represented here. What are your impressions of KJ Costello and how he fits in this offense?
Well, shocker, he's a highly intelligent guy coming from Stanford.
Right.
And, you pick that up listening to him. He's very articulate. I think he's really starting to grasp what Mike Leach is asking him to do with the air raid. And he came off the field last night and said he thought he had his best practice that he'd had to date, and the switch kind of flipped for him. He started to see what Mike's been trying to get across to him. So that's encouraging. The thing I think that makes him a little bit different physically than a lot of guys who have played quarterback in the air raid is that he's got a little bit bigger arm than some of those guys. So they don't want him to stand back there, I think, and hang on to it for a long time waiting for a deep route. But if he sees a guy get a break off the line and get some space in a hurry where he can throw downfield, I think he can take more shots than maybe somebody that typically would run quarterback in this offense.
Neil, one of my favorite players to cover in the conference has been Kylin Hill at the running back position. I think he's a true talent. Kind of surprised a lot of people, I think, when he came back for this season. A lot of people thought he goes to the NFL draft where he would have been a top 3 round draft choice, I think, coming out. So he makes the decision to come back. Obviously, he's a dynamic runner, but in a Mike Leach offense, going to catch a lot of footballs. We could throw all the stats of prior running backs in this offense, 70, 80, even Torian Henderson, who we talked about at Texas Tech, 98 catches in a season. So what do you think the game plan for Kylin Hill will be?
Well, I think it's get him as many touches as you can, and I think the thing it's going to be tough maybe for State fans who have become accustomed to these spread offenses where it's more power run with Dan Mullen and kind of a combination of doing that a little bit with Joe Moorhead the last 2 years while he was trying to build toward more of a downfield passing game. I think they got to get used to the fact that Kylin's success is going to be measured a whole lot more by total yards than it is by the number of times he carries the ball and the number of rushing yards he winds up with at the end of the year. And when the new staff got here and they started getting together with the players in the off season, Eric Mealy, who's the running backs coach here now, looked at Kylin and he said, yeah, you led the league in rushing last year. Probably not going to happen this year, okay? Just go ahead and get that used to that. It's probably not going to be your year to do that because of the way we play. So Steve Spurrier Jr. is the outside receivers coach, and I got to spend some time with him last week, and he told me, he said, it's a misconception that running backs, because they're skill players, are great pass catchers by default. He said Kylin Hill has good hands. He is a good pass catcher and a good route runner. So those things hopefully will help him make the adjustment and be successful in this offense.
Neil Price is our guest, voice of Mississippi State. Neil, I wouldn't dare use the word normal, but how much are things back on the Starkville campus to what would be a start of a semester, start of a football season, getting ready? I know you guys will have a game there a week from Saturday. What's it like on the campus right now?
Well, you see people and you see a lot of students around. Now, I work in an academic building as part of the day job here, so I get to see students go back and forth. And what I'll tell you is when they are in an actual classroom taking part in in-person learning, it's different because they're in big areas. So they're in auditoriums all the time where they've got a chair or two between each student. If they're in lab situations where they have to be closer together, everybody's got a mask on, everybody's got gloves on. When you get outside of the academic buildings and just get out on campus, when there's a class change, it doesn't look a whole lot different than what it did in the spring before everybody got sent home. It's folks walking through the junction. It's enjoying the weather over in the Greek areas. They're sitting out on the patios and the porches, and you see the masks now, which is a change, but life kind of looks like from a social aspect that people are being responsible, but they're enjoying the college experience as much as they can. And that's encouraging because if we can all take a page from young people that are doing this and still living their lives, still working to make themselves better, whether it's just going to college, whether it's like a student athlete for either of these teams that are going to play on Saturday, trying to get education in addition to further their football careers, if we can follow their example as a society, we got a chance to come out of this thing, I think, with a pretty positive outlook, because if they can do it, we all ought to be able to do it.
Neil, I want to ask you about the environment that you're expecting on game days, because a lot of play-by-play guys that we talk to, they kind of get the energy from the crowd sometimes. Maybe you'll open the window up. Maybe you'll hear the roar of the crowd, and it makes your call a little bit different. So we've asked the question about the players and coaches, but for you in your profession, right, you're used to hearing the crowd roar. With 25,000 and some even less numbers, do you expect it to be a little different for you to try to gain some enthusiasm?
It will be different. There's no question about that, especially when you're talking about going into a lot of venues in the SEC that are, 80 and 90,000 plus, and, in the case of Tiger Stadium, 100,000 plus, So I'm glad fans are there, though, because I still think even with 25,000 and with the Golden Band from Tigerland down there on Saturday, too, it will still feel more like a college football environment than maybe what we've seen in a lot of cases with the NFL on Sunday these first 2 weeks. And Chris Blair and I were talking about this just yesterday. You know, I've had a real hard time watching the NFL and watching Major League Baseball on television because the stadiums have been empty. And there's an element of that to me that when I see it, I just think somehow this is like a scrimmage. It doesn't feel like a real game. That won't be the case on Saturday. We'll have fans there. It will feel like a college football environment. And I'm looking forward to that. I know that I know a lot of people are. I'm sure that LSU fans are looking forward to it. I'm sure that both teams are looking forward to running out there. And even though it won't be a normal Saturday, it will still be better than walking into an empty stadium and trying to create the energy to play a game.
Neil, stay safe and have a great call in the game on Saturday. We appreciate your time. We'll look forward to talking to you soon.
All right. Thanks, guys.